Welcome back to today's edition of the Dynasty Market Report. Yes, sometimes it's Friday, sometimes it's Monday, sometimes it's Wednesday. Today, it is Wednesday. But we're going to go ahead and try to crank as many of these as possible for you guys. Basically, any days I possibly can to come and bring you guys the Dynasty news, I will be doing so. This is a special one because we've been getting a lot of signings. We've been having injuries happen left and right. That's not so special. I hate to see the injuries, but it's the reality of the game we play and that we all love. And so let's see what's happening to the Dynasty market because of it. But starting not with injuries today, we're going to start with signings. As you can see on the screen, we got Najee Harris signing with the New York Giants here. And I think the real question everyone is asking is, does this hurt Cam Skattebo? I say no. I think this impacts Tyrone Tracy a lot more than it impacts Cam Skattebo. I think that, what we saw in that preseason game where Jackson Dart got absolutely leveled and blown up on that play was largely because if you go ahead and watch the highlight again, Tyrone Tracy just flat missed the blitz, and he was supposed to have pass protection on that side. He slipped and he missed. And so, whether Najee Harris is going to be that new big body to step in and kind of offer a little bit of that role that Tyrone Tracy was lacking in, maybe this hurts Cam Skattebo only to the degree of goal line touches. Does Najee Harris see a goal line touch here and there because he obviously has that big body and he's been known to be somewhat of a bulldozer? That does creep into the back of my mind ever so slightly. At the end of the day, though, I do see Scat as the alpha here. I think Harbaugh is going to use him to his full potential, and he has been nothing but an awesome culture changer for that New York Giants team. Him and Jackson Dart seem to be the future together. So, again, I think this hurts Tracy a lot more than it hurts Scat, and I'm not going to be too worried about the entire situation when it comes to my Cam Skattebo ownership. Let's go over to Jeremiah Love now, though, because we've got a guy in Jeremiah Love here. And actually, let me just see if that'll pull it up nice and easy. We got a guy in Jeremiah Love here who is also dealing with a little bit of injury fallout from the game. So if we go ahead and check out Jeremiah Love and what's going on with him right now, we can see that he is suffering from a high ankle sprain or a little bit of an ankle issue coming off that preseason game. Now, the question is, will he be ready to go for the season? All indications are yes. However, I think that this is just, one of those things. You don't want to see any rookie get slowed down, especially in training camp when they're getting reps with the team. Does this impact his fantasy usage to start the season because you've got Tyler Algier in that backfield? Potentially, right? And I don't think it's going to hurt his dynasty stock long-term at all, but I do think if there is even the slightest chance that you have a buy window on Jeremiah Love in some of your leagues, I would be taking it. That all being said, I think this is a lot of, smoke and mirrors. We've got a couple weeks here still till the season starts. This injury is not going to be a long-term issue for a 21-year-old running back that probably wasn't going to see an unbelievable amount of usage to start the season anyway. Like I said, I had that Cardinals insider, Blake Murphy from here over on Twitter. If you haven't gone and give him a follow, I would. He is doing some awesome work there, but he said he expects it to be a frustrating backfield for this Arizona team when it comes to fantasy, at least the first 6 to 8 weeks. I expect that as well. Be Radical in the chat. He says, nabbing Debo and Keenan in rounds 23 and 25 a month ago was such a W. I can't wait to flip them. Couldn't agree more, man. Couldn't agree more. We're going to talk a lot about Keenan Allen here towards the end of the show. That is going to impact Josh Downs, as we are well aware. I'll dive into that more because I don't want to dive too much into that now, but you absolutely did get great value, and that's why being active in your offseason is so key. Okay. John says, 7 a.m. Market report. We are cooking. Yes, we are, man. I wanted to start the day strong with you guys, and I'm going to try to do this as many days as I can starting today. Hopefully we can just go every day of the season, more or less. That's the goal. We'll see if I can deliver on that. All right. We've got one trade example for you here, though. James Cook and Kenneth Walker for Jeremiah Love. I think if you're rebuilding, this isn't a bad move to go ahead and bring in Jeremiah Love. All being said, though, if you're anywhere near contending, I'm definitely taking the package side here and taking James Cook and Kenneth Walker. I do think you're going to get some very solid production from both those players. And although I like young running backs, I like productive running backs more. In fact, I was actually talking on yesterday's Trade Titans episode, which I suggest you guys go check out on my YouTube channel, because there's a lot of trades involving guys that you're going to see, pop up on these injury reports here, like Breece Hall, who we're going to talk about later, Jordan Tyson, we went over some injuries news with him during that Trade Titans episode and some trade opportunities. We talked about Stribling. We talked about Jacoby Lane. We talked about Caleb Douglas, Chris Bell being activated. Tons of examples there. All to say, though, a real reason I am bringing that up is because I talked about running back strategy there. And I do tend to be a guy that doesn't worry too much about having these super young upside running backs. I mean, obviously, if you can have a Gibbs or Bijan, congrats. That's fantastic for you. I'm not going to tell you to go fire sale these guys away, but I do really think that you have the opportunity in Dynasty to go ahead and nab up the Saquon Barkleys, the Christian McCaffreys each offseason when people are down on them, the Derrick Henrys, David Montgomerys, and still have super productive Dynasty fantasy football rosters and just spread your value into different positions. It's rare that I'm going to really spend up and buy a Genty or a Hampton. Now, if you were lucky enough to draft them and you got those picks and trades and you still remained competitive and suddenly you got the 102, it falls into your lap. I'm not telling you to sell that player, right? Like everything has its own time and place. I just mean from a roster construction standpoint, you don't see me buying those guys a lot, and I do really have my reasons for that. But let's go ahead and move on to the next player on this list here, which is DJ Moore. And a reason I wanted to talk about DJ Moore was because I've been a little bit lower on DJ Moore than the rest of the community, I'll admit. He's one of those guys that we haven't seen Josh Allen use a true alpha since Stephon Diggs in Buffalo. And so I was skeptical. Can DJ Moore come in and just be that guy right away, 29 years old, coming off a bit of a down season? But from the indications we saw in the preseason game, he's going to be used early and often. And he looks like one of those guys that Josh Allen's going to, find in space, give him the chance to rack up yards after the catch. And so we'll see what DJ Moore has to offer from a fantasy perspective this year. Again, preseason isn't the indicator of all things, but he did look good, and I'm willing to acknowledge that. Now, if we do go look at the Dynasty Price Exchange here on dynastypricecheck.com, so you guys can go ahead and see the live value of these players charted on the open market across community rankings, you can see that the indication is actually to sell DJ Moore here, and I would agree with that. Okay, I would agree with that. And the reason you're seeing that is over a 30-day window here, obviously, even if we zoom out 6 months, you can see he was holding pretty steady throughout the course of the offseason. But now in the last 30 days, the season's getting closer. People want points on their roster. And you go ahead and see this purple channel here. This is the purple channel as the, standard deviation of where this guy is trading upper bound and lower bound on the open market over a 30-day period, right? And so over this 30-day period, since we hit about August 4th here, he's broken that range. He's touched the top of that range, and now he's shot through the top of that range after these preseason games, right? And anytime you got a guy that's really trading above his 30-day value range, gives you an opportunity to sell, right? And that's why the market is telling you, this is your chance to sell. So if we go look at some trades that were made for DJ Moore here, you can see this one where DJ Moore and Tyler Algier were acquired for Zay Flowers and then Caleb Johnson and Trevor Etienne. To be honest, this is a no-brainer for me. Like, I'm smashing the Zay Flowers side of this deal. I know, Tyler probably was giving this guy his Jeremiah Love handcuff in one of our listener leagues, but that's a no-brainer to me. DJ Moore in the 302 for Jaden Higgins in the 212. I think if you're a rebuilder, I don't have too much of an issue with this trade, but I'm probably going to slightly lean the DJ Moore side. I think you could get more for DJ Moore. I personally like the idea of flipping DJ Moore into a running back, especially when we talk about like the running back dead zone. I think DJ Moore into a David Montgomery with a 27 second included would be a great deal to get. I think if you could go DJ Moore and move yourself up to Derrick Henry or maybe get a Josh Jacobs, buy him on the uncertainty injury discount right now, I'd love to explore some opportunities like that. All being said, like, I do think you have the opportunity to potentially sell high here on a DJ Moore. Now, I'm not telling you that you're going to get the same scoring potential out of this player, but a guy I love, I talk about often on this channel, is Wan'Dale Robinson. I think Wan'Dale Robinson is primed to be used heavily in Tennessee this year and is going to act as kind of a stick mover, safety blanket for Cam Ward, nice little PPR floor. And so if you can tier off DJ Moore to a Wan'Dale Robinson and maybe you get a 1-2 pick swap in 2028 if you want to push it down the line, since those 27 picks are hard to get. If you can get a 27 second, maybe if you can get a David Montgomery included, somebody that could give you some production in the meantime, I really don't have too big of an issue doing it. Like a DeAndre Swift would be a great option there too, even though we're going to talk about Monunga here in a second and the injury news. So we'll talk there. I got Ninja Star in the chat here saying Jamar Chase or Collins, Smitty, and Swift. Start 11, 3 wide receiver. This one for me, it's a start 11, man. Look, here's the thing. I think you're probably taking the package here. I think you're probably taking the package. I think here's my issue with it, and I'll explain myself real quick. And guys, if you want to hop over to the YouTube chat and drop me some comments, I'm happy to answer your trade questions as we go along through the market report here. Here's my problem, okay? If I'm tearing off Jamar Chase, I feel like I really want like a home run package. Like I want Ashton Genty and a first and, maybe even an upside play at tight end like a Kyle Pitts. I want something like that because I really want to make sure I'm getting blue chip players in return. Like Nico Collins, I think is going to be very productive this year, but I think his dynasty value is in question, right? Like, is it going to hold next offseason? Probably not. What happens with his contract situation? I know they reworked it this offseason, but it wasn't a formal extension. Smitty, on the other hand, he's going to be used heavily this year. Could be a wide receiver one, right? No A.J. Brown in the building. And so the way I look at this is you are getting two wide receiver ones here, but then you're getting DeAndre Swift. I think ideally for me, if I was going to do a deal like this, I think I'd just feel a lot better transitioning into players that I believe have more long-term upside. Maybe if we're talking like moving off Jamar Chase, could I get Drake London and Devonta Smith and just keep it a little bit more concentrated? You could drop the Swift part. Maybe you got to add a third-round pick to Jamar Chase, and they'll still include the Swift side of that. All to be said, like, I think this is totally, totally fair. But yeah, I think if you want to go all in and to win, you might take the package here. But again, I think you could just get better for Jamar Chase. It's very hard. I know I feel like I'm sitting on the fence right there with that one, but it is a brutal trade. I see why you're struggling. B Radical says, personally, the fact that Love won't get a huge workload just makes him an even better rebuild asset. Agreed. A better rebuild asset because, yeah, he's not gonna be weighing you down in the max points for category when you're fighting for that 101 and 27. Scott says, holy balls, we got a market report. Yes, we do, guys. I'm gonna try to crank them every day now here before work. We'll see how long I can keep it up, but I am motivated to bring you guys as much content as possible and keep you updated with the news because there's a ton going on right now. Speaking of a ton going on, let's talk about Kamanungai. Because this is a guy that I've kind of been telling you to sell all offseason, and not kinda, I have been. Now, that all being said, the website's telling you to buy. And you know why they're telling you to buy? Because look at this injury discount you're getting in the last few days here. He has been plummeting downwards. And so, again, everything for the right price, guys. If you can get Kyle Monungai for cheap now, maybe like a third-round pick, I'm okay with that. Or maybe 2/3, I'm okay with that. And so that I don't have an issue with. Again, like if I were to, pull up a startup board here and we can go take a quick look for fun, Kyle Monungai, I believe, in this startup that I did with Lineup Mitch and Mello and Sammy Stacks and a lot of other your favorite creators here in the Dynasty space, you can go ahead and see that, Kyle Monungai did go pretty early, actually, in this draft. If I remember, yeah, the 9-2 is where he went here, next to guys like Pitts, and there's no tight end premium in this league, which I thought was interesting, but went next to Pitts and Alec Pierce and Jordan Addison, and so that's rich for me, right? Now, if with the injury discount, we can go ahead and bring Kyle Monungai in for maybe, guys that fall normally to the 11th round here, maybe like a Jaden Reed, that's something I don't have too big of an issue with when you're looking at stacking running back depth. But even then, I don't love it. I think I'm just out on Kyle Monungai in general, and I'm just going to be completely honest and own it. He's 24 years old. He's going to be 25 before next year. He offers you barely any pass catching upside. Like if we were to go on this price exchange here on dynastypricecheck.com and load up his history tab here, you could see last year, like again, even in the reception department, he had 30 targets on the whole year, 18 receptions. It's just nothing to work with. And then when Swift is also getting a good amount of the goal line touches, it's like, what does Monungai offer you from a ceiling perspective? Just not that much. And so I think already an old prospect, not a huge ceiling. If the Bears move on from Swift, they probably draft someone else or bring someone else in free agency so Ben Johnson can still stick with his two-headed monster system. I mean, let's look at one trade example here on June 12th. We had Garrett Wilson acquired for Kyle Monungai and Casey Conception. I mean, this is a no-brainer for me. Give me Garrett Wilson every day of the week and twice on Sunday. Monungai is a nice throw-in piece that you just kind of include here to sweeten up that deal. I love doing stuff like that. Now, again, everybody for their right price. If you can get a cheap price on Kyle Monungai on the injury discount, do it. But DeAndre Swift definitely is going to get a nice value boost from this. And quite frankly, I'm always curious, guys, and this is why we love having this tool here at dynastypricecheck.com to see what is happening on the open market, because I bet the market's actually reacting to this injury on the Swift side. And look at that. It is. Look at Swift just rocketing up. And the website's even signaling you to sell him because of how incredible the rise is for DeAndre Swift here. And you can go ahead and see, I actually bought DeAndre Swift recently in one of my listener leagues. It was May 9th, so a while back now. The 306, the 308, and a 4th and 27 for DeAndre Swift. That's a no-brainer for me. I wanted to bring in some running back depth there. I think you got to at least pay a 27 second to get DeAndre Swift now. But yeah, this guy's going to get some solid usage. And especially if Monunga is walking into the season already with a little bit of injury concern, I mean, now you get even more upside, right? So we've got Scott in the chat. Appreciate you, man. We got Vic in the chat saying, just traded Puka and Saquon for Neighbors in Hampton. Yeah, I like that trade. I like that trade for you a lot. I think you pivoted, you got younger. That's probably avoiding, a hard rebuild in the future there. So no issue with that at all. I got Basil Hayek in the chat saying, I'm rebuilding and traded Burrow and Kraft for a 27 second, a 28 second Casey Conception, Antonio Williams, and Katron Allen. You did not get enough, my friend. Burrow and Kraft for a 27 second? There's no first round picks involved in this trade? Look, I always keep it real on this channel. Love to hear about your guys' trades. Love to see them in the Discord. If you're not already in there, hop in the Dynasty Price Check Discord. Totally free to join. It's linked in the description here, and we're talking trades all day, every day. And quite frankly, my friend, if you had posted this in the Discord, we would have helped you here. This was not nearly enough return for Kraft and Burrow, in my opinion. I know Conception, is getting a nice little buzz right now, and he had a nice little end around during that preseason game, but nowhere near enough value for me on that trade there. I'm super high on Tucker Kraft this year. I think Kraft is going to be an ultimate alpha, and we'll get to that in a moment. Second trade, though, he said JSN and JT for a 27 first, 28 first, CMC and CD. Okay. And then traded CMC and a third for Jonathan Brooks and a 27 first and Stribling. Okay, that one's not so bad. Then I traded CD and Algier for Luther, a 27 first and a 27 third. That's a super sell low on CD. I'm not gonna lie. I'm also way lower on Luther Burden than others. I think, if you could take Luther Burden in a 27 first and go buy CD Lamb, which apparently you can. We just witnessed it happen right here. I'm doing it. Like, unequivocally, I'm doing it every day of the week and twice on Sunday. Yes, you're going to get used to me saying that often when you tell me about your trades. If they're good or if they're bad, I will keep it real. But guys, let's hop to the next guy on this list, okay? Because we're going to talk Tucker Kraft for a second. And the real deal is what I was saying with Tucker Kraft. He's back on the field and he's healthy. And there was a little bit of conversation this week, though, about his workload, right? And basically saying, will Tucker Kraft be getting a full workload right out of the gate, or is he going to be on a snap count? Now, he did come out and say, okay, I'm not going to go ahead. I'm not going to be, utilized on every down. He said that. He came out and he owned it, and he said, I am going to be on some sort of snap count, right? And I think snap count is something that makes us hesitant as fantasy owners, but from a Tucker Kraft perspective, I do think managing his workload is one thing, but still utilizing him in key situations is going to be where they go. And so high value touches are all I care about, right? And so I'm not worried about those comments. If anybody else is, then that's your buy window on Tucker Kraft, quite frankly. Unfortunately, the signal on the website here is they're signaling a sell. And I think it's because now it looks like he's trending towards the start of the season and he's going to play. And now, as we've seen, whenever you get massive spikes and changes in that 30-day value range very quickly, just like in traditional stock trading, although it's not the same thing. I understand we're talking players here. Your signal would be maybe you want to take some profits here. Maybe you want to take some profits and not get greedy. That all being said, I'm all in on Tucker Kraft. Let's look at a trade here for Tucker Kraft. Man, so much in this. I'm actually not even going to do it because there's just too many pieces. It's not clear enough. But guys, real trades are on the website from our listener leagues. I think it's important to showcase only real trades here, and that's what we got going for you. So Tucker Kraft, though, if there's still any injury discount in your league to buy him, I'm doing it. If not, though, you're probably too late to the party. I just bought Tucker Kraft actually the other day, and I could tell you guys what I paid for him. It was a non-tight end premium league, so we got to keep that in mind. This is also a league that really values picks. Like, this is an OG league. We've been going for 11 years, hence the no tight end premium. No one wants to change the scoring format, which I can understand. We've been set in our ways here now. But the trade itself, I really wanted to lean in and contend. And so the trade itself ended up being me getting Tucker Kraft and getting Jared Goff and also getting one more piece. It was officially Jared Goff, Cortland Sutton and Tucker Kraft on a full contending roster for myself right now, and I sent away Chuba Hubbard, a 28 first and a 27 second round pick. That is what I went ahead and did. I understand there's no tight end premium, but I am all in on Kraft. I needed a real quarterback option at QB2 there with Jared Goff, and getting some wide receiver depth with Cortland Sutton there felt good. I got Josh in the chat now saying, traded Luther Burden for a mid 27 first and a 28 second. I am rebuilding, and this eliminates the 101 contender. Yep, I like it. Look, I don't have any issue with it. I mean, you made a profit there. No way you took Luther Burden probably that high in the first round of your draft last year. You probably got him in the second or at the very end of the first. You just traded it for a 27 first, which you project mid. You also got another second round pick on top of it. I understand this could be viewed as a sell low on Luther Burden, and I'm well aware that that is always a risk in Dynasty. All being said, though, I would gladly just be fine taking my profit here. He's injured. I don't know what his usage is going to be this year. There's been a lot of chatter around it. I always say, what is the chatter going to give you? Let's talk about Parker Washington here, okay? Parker Washington's the next guy. And, the news here, I'm not going to touch too much on it. We know Parker Washington's been flying up the boards. And if we look at his chart, it's going to be pretty gross over the last 6 months. And it is. It's disgusting. It's insanity is what it is. This guy has been on an absolute vault since July 31st, just gaining an unbelievable amount of dynasty value points on the open market. And even on the 30-day, like it's a straight diagonal line, basically. If you were to draw all the way across, he's broken this band multiple times. Everyone is all in on Parker Washington. Now, the reports that Parker Washington is going to be, used even in heavy personnel sets, and he's not coming off the field, and that's really the reports I wanted to touch on here. It looks good for him, not as good for Brian Thomas Jr. Now, that all being said, I like buying guys in contract years, and so, again, I wish we had bought Parker Washington before this massive, massive price inflation, because the issue is now you're paying for the production you haven't gotten. Parker Washington is up at 4,300 value points. A good comparison here, and I want to just show you guys, is I know this is a player that, has a little bit of legal risk on his side, but look at Josh Jacobs sitting at 4,000. I mean, Parker Washington has flown right past him. I would still pretty confidently say that Josh Jacobs is going to outscore Parker Washington this year, or at least offer you more weekly upside, especially when it comes to the touchdown department, right? And so I think that makes me a little bit wary, right? It just makes me a little bit wary. Are we paying already for the Parker Washington price that we haven't seen yet? And Max is in the chat here, and he brings up a really good point. Why does anyone in that Jags offense carry value with so many options? And I don't entirely disagree, right? Don't entirely disagree, because the reality of the situation is, yes, we are talking about a guy that is sharing a room with Travis Hunter, who's going to play some snaps on offense, is sharing a room with, Brian Thomas Jr., sharing a room with Jacoby Myers, who just recently got extended, sharing a room with Brenton Strange, and it is going to be tough. It's going to be tough for him to deliver true amount of fantasy value points comparatively to what we're paying the prices for these days. And so that's why I am with you, Max. I think at this stage, Parker Washington is a guy that I wouldn't say I'm fading, but he is a prime example of take your profits or use him in a tier up trade. Okay, because if we talk about Parker Washington, and again, if I pull up this chart here, we're talking about a guy that has just gone absolutely monumental, nuclear on this chart over the last few months. And so, 1 second, guys. All to be said, he's gone nuclear. And so if I pull up the startup board again, you watch Parker Washington go all the way in the 7th round, that high up. And to be honest, if we redid this even today, you'd probably see him higher. He went here at the 707. I mean, if you're in a super flex and now you can flip him for Baker Mayfield, I mean, Jared Goff went at the 701, Kyler Murray at the 704. We're talking about, Parker Washington and Mekhi Lemon only being around apart. Devonta Smith went at the 605. I mean, Jalen Waddle went at the 611. If I can go Parker Washington to Jalen Waddle, I think that's a no-brainer. Personally, I think it's a no-brainer. I think if we can use him to tier up into getting one of these running backs, like a Javonte Williams, a Saquon Barkley, even a Kyron, or maybe into the range of a Judkins, I think it's definitely worth it. And so just some options for you guys out there. It's not that I don't like Parker Washington as a talent at all, and I like guys in contract years. I just would have liked it more if you bought him in February. I'm less interested now that you have to pay the price without getting proven, production. We saw a breakout at the end of last year, but we haven't gotten the full confirmation, okay, that he is that guy for the future. So let's talk Emmett Johnson real quick, okay? Emmett Johnson is a guy that I wasn't really high on, but he gets actually a pretty decent landing spot in Kansas City here. And the reason I say that is because Kenneth Walker has had his own injury concerns, but there's been a little bit of news here around Emmett Johnson and how shifty he's been and how he looked in that preseason game. And I think there is opportunity there for Emmett Johnson, as I think him and Brashard Smith are probably going to share that backfield if anything happened to Kenneth Walker, but he's probably more the pure runner. Smith might offer you some more pass catching option here, but Emmett Johnson, he's been in the steady buy range, hold range. If you really wanted him, you can get him super cheap. Now, again, I think he's actually very shifty. Like, he's one of those guys, and one of my greatest buddies out there who's a great scout and actually works in the business. I can't say where he works for, but he's a college scout. And he always says you can't catch Emmett Johnson in a phone booth. And it's true, because he really is that shifty, and he looks good. And so if anything were to happen to Kenneth Walker here, I do think Emmett Johnson, probably one of your cheaper handcuff options out there right now. And so I don't hate going out if you're a Walker owner and sending a third-round pick for Emmett Johnson. I got B Radical and Scott going off in the chat over here. Appreciate you guys hopping in this early in the morning and showing some love for the market report and always keeping us going in the Discord. If you guys haven't already, friendly reminder, join that Dynasty Price Check Discord. It's the place to be this offseason. Let's talk next about Jacoby Lane. I'm going to talk about Jacoby Lane as many times as I can. I talked about Jacoby Lane yesterday, on the Dynasty Trade Titan show, and I have been telling you to buy Jacoby Lane since last November, okay? And look, he's already in the sell range, because if we zoom in, look at that, just absolute ripper of a chart. He's going straight diagonal, straight up, even in the 30-day window, outside of his 30-day overall standard deviation training band. And, I was getting him in the late second, early third round of your rookie drafts. I've seen him now go as early as like the 202, the 201. If you can go ahead and trade some vets for Jacoby Lane and try to get in, and I'm thinking vets in the range of, if you're anywhere near rebuilding, like, Juwan Jennings, easy, Chris Rodriguez, easy. I think if you can, maybe look at a Khalil Shakir and try to move off him. If you could look at Romeo Doubs, and potentially get Jacoby Lane right now. He looks like he has solidified that wide receiver 3 spot, if not wide receiver 2 in Baltimore for the future. He is 22 years old. He's got incredible acrobatic ability. He's got more speed than we even thought. And he's got red zone upside as well. And so what would I sell Lane for? I mean, if I can get a first for him, I'll take it, right? If it's a second, I don't know why I'm doing that, because I probably bought him in the second round, or at the very minimum, the late second round. And at that point, you have a guy that is showing all the right signs. I mean, there was a report from a Baltimore Ravens beat reporter, guys, that literally said, I've been working for the team for 27 years. And in 27 years, I have never seen anyone make the impression that Jacoby Lane has made during this Baltimore Ravens camp. I mean, I know we are talking, it's camp, it's preseason, it's whatever. Like, Lamar Jackson is singing his praises. There's opportunity in that room. People are loving him. I think it's a no-brainer to hold Jacoby Lane unless you're getting a first. And so if you're getting a lot of value here, or you can flip Jacoby Lane into a guaranteed producing asset for a contending roster this year, if you're really running back needy, let's say, and you're going to be able to go get a DeAndre Swift plus, then that's one thing. But for right now, I'm holding Jacoby Lane unless I'm getting a first. Max said, thoughts on Jacoby Lane versus Antonio Williams? Look, as you guys know, those were my two guys. Like, I don't hide it. You can go back, check my YouTube channel, go look the whole offseason, look at my rookies, my guys video, look at my post-rookie draft recap video. I think it was in early May, because we do them all at the end of April, right after the NFL draft. I think I came away with 6 shares of Antonio Williams and 4 shares of Jacoby Lane. And these guys are awesome, but I think right now you got to give the edge to Jacoby Lane, because the opportunity's there. Like, the Stephon Diggs signing does push Antonio Williams down a little bit. And so it's not that I think Antonio Williams isn't just as talented or could play just as big of a role. It's just what the dynasty market is going to allow you to do with Jacoby Lane through probably this season is going to be a hell of a lot more than what you could do with Antonio Williams. And so I'm saying I'd rather have Lane right now, because I think your buy window on Antonio Williams is going to still be open throughout the season, because people will have drafted him by week 10 if he hasn't done anything, and Diggs is doing well, and Terry McLaurin's eaten, and maybe Luke McCaffrey had a game or two. You never know. Treylon Burks had a game or or two, and everyone's just saying, okay, Antonio Williams dead in the water. He's a dead dynasty asset. Like, we were all wrong. Well, you'll have a ton of opportunity to buy him then. But Jacoby Lane, the hype train's left the station, and he's going to get involved. We watched him get involved even in the preseason game. He caught a touchdown pass. And, they're going to actually get him looks early on in the season. So all to be said, it's Lane right now for me. It's Lane right now. But B Radical says, don't make Stan pick between his two kids. He's totally right, man. He's totally right. I mean, those are my guys. And that is going to be a tough decision for me to sit on. Look, I'm gonna cover Jalen Milroe real quick, okay? Because I do want to say, I have a lot of connections with the Seattle Seahawks. You guys know that. If you were here last year before I told you to buy JSN, and he exploded all over the Dynasty scene, you're probably thanking me. That all being said, I have a guy who works for the Seahawks and has been saying Jalen Milroe's had a phenomenal camp. And although he didn't look good in the preseason game, and that's totally true, he has been making his stamp here. And I think a lot of people are going to write Jalen Milroe off as a dynasty asset right now. I think that the buy window on Jalen Milroe is open. And I'm not telling you that he's going to do anything, super impactful in the next 2 seasons even. Sam Darnold just won a Super Bowl. I love Sam Darnold as a Seahawks fan. I am very thankful for what he just brought to the city of Seattle. All to be said, though, this is a man that has third-round draft capital. This is a guy that his legs are absolutely vicious. Like, could be Lamar Jackson 2.0, if not even more talented of a runner. And I think we've seen so many quarterbacks over the last few years, Sam Darnold being one of them, Daniel Jones being one of them, Geno Smith being one of them for a moment, and, Mac Jones being another one, Malik Willis here, guys getting second chances. Okay. And I do think Jalen Milroe, even if it's not the long-term solution in Seattle, giving him a chance to develop here and get some coaching, and he still could be a serious threat down the line. He's only 23 years old. I think he's a great stash right now. If people are dropping him in your dynasty leagues, or you can get him now for a 4th-round pick after that preseason performance, I would do it and just hold him, especially if you're in a hard rebuild. That's all I wanted to say on Jalen Milroe. Don't give up on this man. I'm not saying he's entirely gone, but he really does offer a crazy amount of upside if he were to ever get the chance. Ninja Star said, what would you sell Monty for in a rebuild or buy as a contender? For sure. I mean, in a rebuild, I would sell Monty for Jordan Addison. I would sell Monty for, probably even Wan'Dale Robinson. I would sell Monty for Jonah Coleman. I would sell Monty for, even in a rebuild, I'd probably be looking at Jaden Higgins and a little sweetener. I'd love to get Denzel Boston. I think those are the range that you're playing with there. If you're trying to buy him, again, I would love to go out and buy Monty as a contender if I'm the owner of a Christian Watson. The injuries have scared me too much. RJ Harvey, unequivocally. Chuba Hubbard, unequivocally. I think Monty's going to be far more productive than him. I think, Kyle Monungai is another one I've mentioned before. And I even think, if we look down here, like at the Ricky Pearsalls of the world, the Jaden Higgins of the world, guys like that, Matthew Golden and a little sweetener, like I'm all in on that. Scott said, thoughts on trading Garrett Wilson, Terry, Jalen Warren for Rome, a 27 first, Jordan Addison, and Woody. I am going to sit on the Garrett Wilson side of this one. And it's just that, again, when there's so many pieces in the trade, I try to bury it down to what I care most about. The 2 best pieces in the trade here are Garrett Wilson and then like Rome or your 27 first. Now, I understand if it was just more concentrated and it was like Rome and a 27 first for Garrett Wilson. Well, if you're starting to rebuild it all, I'd just take the Rome and a 27 first. I think that's totally fair compensation. But I think all in all, if I'm anywhere near contending, like just give me Terry and Jalen Warren and Garrett Wilson and I'll keep going with that one. To be frank, that's the way I'm looking at it. But again, there's options there. Okay, let's talk about Breece Hall real quick, guys. Breece Hall, okay? Talk about Breece Hall. Gonna have a groin injury here. It's a bummer to see. And quite frankly, the buy window is open on Breece Hall, okay? Because I've already seen it happen, and I'm going to pull one up right now, and I think it's on the website here. It was 2 days ago. So we can show it on dynastypricecheck.com. And just so you guys can see here, we do have the Breece Hall injury news. It's a bummer to see, but injury announcement looks like he's going to miss 2 to 3 weeks, but he will be expected back for the season opener. Here's the thing. I don't like when running backs are already hurt before the big hits start coming. So I don't love that. I don't love that I'm starting the season already a little bit banged up from a Breece Hall perspective. That all being said, though, I wanted to highlight this trade that just went down in one of my listener leagues and show you how to execute a true buy low based off injury news, right? Like you just saw that startup board we were at, right? And if you do look at it again, we see that Breece Hall is going right here at the 505 and probably goes a little earlier in most drafts. Now, Javonte Williams goes at the 606. Okay, so about a 1 round startup difference. I would probably have it more significant. Like, I think it's even a little bit more because I think Breece Hall's just talent profile is better, a bit younger. I think he can handle more of a workload than Javonte Williams. And Javonte Williams, although looked really good last year, Dallas is just always a place where they can flip on a dime left and right. Okay. And their offensive production is very reliant on Dak. The Jets' offensive production is reliant on no one because the Jets have no offensive production. All being said, if you can go into a trade like this where, MJ Walsh here, who's been cooking today, we've shown a lot of his trades, sent away Deshaun Watson and Javonte Williams to bring in Treylon Burks and Breece Hall, I think that that's a really good buy on Breece Hall. Okay, I think that that's essentially printing yourself a round of startup value just based off the news. And by the start of the season, it shouldn't really matter. And I think that that's a bit of a panic sell on Breece Hall. That's just my opinion. And so for me, I think that you should be sending offers for Breece Hall this week. You should absolutely be sending offers for Breece Hall this week. And that's just your example. Okay. Let's talk about the final two here, guys. And then I got to go ahead and jump off to work. We've got Keenan Allen. Okay. Keenan Allen is signing with the Indianapolis Colts, and look at his chart here. It's on the straight incline. I just watched someone dump 150 of their 200 FOB on him in one of my leagues this morning when waivers cleared. And so, Keenan Allen is going to spell a thorn in the side for Josh Downs. Okay. They are going to be hurt here. Now, I have seen a lot of news going around about this really hurts Tyler Warren. I disagree. I don't think this hurts Tyler Warren nearly as much as it hurts Josh Downs. However, Steichen, he has, a built-up rapport with Keenan Allen from his time in the Chargers. I do think Keenan Allen works fine on the outside. I do think Keenan Allen is going to steal some of those moving the sticks touches. And I do think Keenan Allen is going to limit Josh Downs' opportunity on the field this year. And so that's a bummer to see. That's the way it's going to be. I think if you really are an ultimate contender and you want to send a 3rd round pick now for Keenan Allen, you can go ahead and do so. I'm not paying a second. And outside of that, I think if you can get him for a 4th on a contender, that's also fine. But this is a guy that is a 1-year rental at most. He absolutely was relevant for the first half of the season last year and then died off a bit with the Chargers offense. But overall, this is going to be a guy that now is either on your waiver wire and you're going to have to spend some FOB to get him or send a contending pick for him. If you want to send some deep down roster cloggers, guys that are really, airmail shots like Aya Manor, if we go even further down on this startup board and look at guys like A.D. Mitchell or maybe even, offering someone their handcuff like a Brian Robinson to the Bijan owner and seeing if you can bring Keenan Allen in for some veteran wide receiver depth. I don't have an issue with that, but I'm not paying anything super material for Keenan Allen. Let's talk about the last one, though, guys. And it's probably a one that everyone's wanted me to talk about again here. Still no chart on him because it's so recent. His massive spike, he wasn't really tracking earlier than this. Dazon Stribling, okay? And Mike Evans, 32 years old, dealing with a soft tissue injury again here this offseason. The substation's already taken the man for a ride. It's a bummer to see, but Dazon Stribling looks incredible. I'm not going to lie. He looks great. Pearsall is out for the year. Debo's over 30 years old. I mean, he was the 33rd overall draft pick. We're watching him moss guys in joint practice. We watched him get hyper used in that preseason game, like a ton of usage in that preseason game, and he didn't even play the whole game. This looks like potentially the steal of your rookie draft right now. And if you were in your rookie draft like I was, getting him at the 4th round or off waivers, which he did clear waivers in several of my rookie drafts that we did, right after the NFL draft. He's looking like the steal right now. I think he's already flown up boards. I've seen some people that had delayed their rookie drafts taking him in the 1st round, like at the end of the 1st round. If you can print a 1st round pick for Stribling right now, I will give you my blessing to do so, okay? Because he's one of those guys that I think you can get a nice profit on. That all being said, he could very well be worth that first. And I'm not trying to overhype it. I'm just telling you what we've seen with our own eyes right now. We have seen him be used. We have seen a 49ers pass catching room that has struggled with injury, not only in the last few seasons, but is looking to be struggling again. I just watched him move for a 29 second round pick in one of my leagues the other day, and maybe that's this one right here. There you go. You can see it happened July 29th. So actually a few weeks ago now, before we even got too much preseason news, 29 second. I don't think this deal gets done now. I think it's a 27 second at the bare minimum. And quite frankly, you're probably actually having to move guys of significant value. Like if I pulled this startup board again, you're probably looking at having to move guys in this 10th round range at bare minimum, which means like Eli Stowers, Devontae Adams, Denzel Boston, who he goes pretty similarly in drafts with Michael Wilson. I think DK Metcalf, if you want to swap Ole Miss teammates here, you could go ahead and go for Stribling and try to get younger. And I like that deal because I think DK's best fantasy days are behind him personally. So I think you've got my blessing on that one. All to be said, I think Stribling, if you can get a first for him, I'll still do it for the process deal of it, but you could be selling low at that point. I'm not going to lie. We got one final question in the chat here, guys, and then I'm going to go ahead and sign off. If you haven't already, join that Dynasty Price Check Discord. Make sure you're subscribed here on the channel. I'm going to try to do these every single day, bring you guys as much news as possible on how it's affecting the Dynasty market here. B Radical says, how do you determine whether to flip a guy like Stribs or wait and see if he becomes a legit star? Honestly, I think the market and what my offers are telling me what to do with him, right? And so I'm not going out and actively sending a ton of offers unless I'm an ultimate contender. If I'm an ultimate contender and now I'm sitting on a gold mine that is Stribs and I'm saying, okay, I have a chance to win this year. Winning is winning. So if I can now start, just throwing on what's going to be a late second round pick next year or something, and I can move myself up into the 6-7 range, right? And maybe get myself a Devonta Smith, like I had mentioned before. If I can get myself a Jalen Waddle, if I can get myself a Kyron Williams or a Saquon Barkley. I mean, those are trades that are no-brainers. And I know people are out there probably like, that'll never happen. He hasn't gone that high. Well, he has, guys. He has gone that high. I've seen Stribling now be equated to a first-round pick this year. So, again, you're talking a first-round pick, and you throw a second on that. So, what, a first and a second worth of value for Saquon Barkley? Of course that deal gets done. And so if you can do deals like that, it's a no-brainer. Now, again, if people are just going to lowball you, and you just are like, okay, well, I took him in the 4th round, someone offered me a second and a third, well, I'm probably just holding because I always look, what's your hit rate on a second round pick? It's less than 23% or something. I think it's less than 18% actually. Late first round picks are 22%. So yeah, it's like less than 18% on a second round pick. And so it's like, okay, and then a third round pick is 10%. So it's like, okay, now I'm just trading for more dart throws. Well, I got a guy that's gaining traction. I'm just going to keep the guy. So again, I like to say the market will tell you everything here and based off your offers. And Radical, you know what to do, man. You get an offer that you're torn on, you put it in that Discord, you hit us up, and here at DPC in our community, we'll help you guys try to stay right this offseason. Thanks so much, guys, for the continued support. I'll see you in the next one. Make sure you're subscribed here on the channel, following along on Twitter, doing all the good stuff. Check me out on TikTok. I'm on San Diego Sports 760 Radio on Wednesdays as well, doing your fantasy roundup. We'll be back for the 2026 season, it looks like, so you know where to find me there. I'll see you guys soon, and take care.